Hey, it's Adrian Law here, and today I've got a quick tool to share with you that's going to help you overcome one of the biggest mistakes that I see salespeople making. It's not just new people, although they pretty much make it all the time. It's a lot more experienced people as well, but not anymore if you implement what I'm about to share. Now, what's the mistake firstly? Well, quite simply, it's being led, the salesperson being led by the customer or their guest. What do I mean? Well, it can happen certainly face to face, but let's take the phone as an example. After conducting thousands of mystery shops and God knows how many recorded calls that we've listened into that are actual live sales calls, how most calls go, not all, but most, is where the customer or guest will ask a question, the salesperson answers the question, the customer asks another question, the salesperson answers it, and that's kind of the theme for the phone call. The salesperson often shares their knowledge, but in our experience, they don't ask that many questions. Therefore, the customer or guest is leading the conversation. And if you think about what happens, whether it's face-to-face or on the phone, because the customer's got the information that they wanted, often they're full. So that on the phone, they've got no obligation whatsoever to make an appointment, certainly not to leave a deposit or buy the car, or have any obligation to you or the dealership. You see, it's not a proactive way to go about it. Same with face-to-face. If they're leading the process, one of two things is going to happen if your customers or guests are leading the process. The first thing that will happen is you won't make a sale, and the second thing is that if you do make a sale, you won't make any money. It doesn't sound good, so let's implement this. Now, I first discovered this tool many, many years ago when I worked for the Automotive Training Institute. And the boss there at the time, Ivan, was reading a really good book from Sandler Training. And there was a chapter entitled Establishing Expectations. And what that is simply where you tell somebody what's going to happen before it happens. I've rephrased this, I call it signposting, because I think it's a better description of what it is. You're signposting what's about to occur. And if the customer or guest agrees to it, then they're following your game plan, not their own. Does that make sense? Now, the strategy of how this works, it can be applied in so many different areas. But a great example is, let's say, on the test drive. Because what you can also do with this is you can set up the sale. Let me give you an example. You see, what most people do is they say, do you want to go for a drive? And let's say the customer or guest says yes, and they go for a drive. The salesperson might ask a few questions on the drive, and then they come back to the dealership, and often the customer or guest wants to run away. But not if you do this. So imagine, but prior to the test drive, you said something like the following. Mrs. Jones, what we'll do is I'll drive out of the dealership so you can sit back and relax in the passenger seat. What I'll do is point out some features and benefits for you, and then we'll go to the local park. It's nice and quiet there. It's away from the dealership. I can give you a great presentation of the vehicle, and then you can have a drive. You can then see how comfortable the car is, and if you really love the car, when we get back to the dealership, we can see how we can make you happy with the money side of things. Does that sound good, Mrs. Jones? You see, what have you done? You've set up the entire test drive, but you've also set up the next step. It doesn't have to be that powerful. It could be as simple as when you first met somebody, you found out what they need a little bit. You might say, Mr. Smith, what we'll do is, I just need to ask you a few questions. So let's just grab a seat for a moment to ascertain exactly what you're looking for, and then we can look at some cars. Does that sound good? See, again, you've got control, you're leading the process, and most customers are happy to follow. One little tip is, because there are mistakes with this, but I'll give you a quick tip in this video, just end whatever you've stated, end with a question to get there okay. So I'll say, does that sound good? Is that okay? I'm not pleading, I'm not begging, it's a matter of fact, but it's just the customer or guest agreeing to what you've outlined, okay? Now, this has been used by so many of my students. I use this pretty much every day of my life, but the difference it can make is incredible. I remember one salesperson that worked for Jaguar Land Rover, and they were really struggling. They were being walked all over, but once they implemented the signposting, not only did they gain confidence, but they also made more sales and more money, which means more money for them, more money for you. Customer or guest is happy also, so it's win-win. So happy signposting, have an awesome day, and let me know how you go. Bye for now.